And I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, how do we want to do this?
I don't know. This is uncharted territory, right?
I know. This is new.
This is new. So we have the doc.
We do.
Okay. Want to freewheel for a little bit? Talk about our weeks.
Yeah. Talk about your week.
Oh,
You've had a much more exciting week than me.
Oh, I don't know about that. Let's see. So, first, welcome to the podcast. We honestly have no idea what we're doing. This is just going to be a very freewheeling exercise until we actually have an agenda. We did homework, but it's going to be pretty freewheeling till we get there. So big news for me. I'm in between jobs right now. I'm fond of saying I'm unemployed because it sounds a lot better when I start drinking at noon.
It's more dangerous.
It is more dangerous. But no, it's good. It's good. I've been doing a lot of relaxing. I binged all 7 seasons of Mad Men in about 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, good show, by the way. Hanging out with my dog, working out, just doing me, just being me for a little bit before I start the new gig.
Nice. Do you want us to tell us about your new gig, or?
Actually, funny enough, that's actually a good topic, and I think it's something I do need to hit on. So, Gonna get this right out of the way. Opinions expressed on this podcast or any social media represents myself and not any potential company I may or may not be working for.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'll be joining Microsoft as a premier field engineer, and that's going to be pretty awesome because I'm going to get to work with all their data and AI tools and helping companies solve problems. It's going to be pretty rad.
Sounds pretty rad.
Yeah.
You have to be excited.
I am. I truly am. I'm as much fun as it is to have lunch with John Kruger. I am anxious to get started. I don't like sitting around. Sitting around doing nothing is pretty amazing, but at the same time, I am ready to get back to work. I really am.
Yeah, I always found that after a vacation, after about 6 days, I'm done. I have to do something again. Yeah,
I had lunch with John Kruger today, and
I'm envious.
Yeah, we met for lunch. We're gonna try to make that a standing thing now. He's one of my favorite people. He really is.
John Kruger is the best.
He is the best. He is the best. What about you? What do you got going on?
Well, the big thing around here is the kids aren't going to school, but my wife is still working. She's also a teacher, so her last day is tomorrow. So I stayed home today and worked from home.
I saw that email.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of I'm in the grind of parenting. That's where I'm at.
Oh my goodness! How much longer does she have? Mandy's last day was today.
The last day with the kids was today. She's got one more day, teacher in service tomorrow, where the big thing is all the teachers have to move rooms and stuff and get things off the floor so the janitors can clean and, all that fun stuff.
It's amazing because I grew up, both my parents were teachers, and I grew up with the summer dance of cleaning rooms and putting things in storage, and that's when we got to bring home the computers for the summer.
Ooh,
yeah,
that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
She likes the in-service days because it's one of the rare days where she actually gets to go out to eat with her friends, or friends/coworkers. That's a luxury, I can just do that whenever I want. Because, I have a cushy office job where I sit at a computer all day. I send emails professionally now.
Yeah, you're a manager now. That's really important.
You would think. Yeah. I like to say that I became the least important person on my team when I took that role. So,
well, I think we know that's not true. Beep boop. Everybody's trying their best. Interestingly enough, that segues nicely into our first topic in the document here. Is we need a name for this.
We do need a name.
Oh wait, are we allowed to work blue? I just dropped an F-bomb.
I think we can do whatever we want.
Okay.
So,
what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this commitment early on. I'm sure this is going to be broken many times before we're done before this evening. I'm going to try not to swear. I think that's admirable, right? Like I'm not gonna go like swear jar, but I think like I think it's an admirable goal to not swear on a public podcast.
You know what? I will try not to swear as well.
All right.
Maybe I can find one of those fancy like beep noises and beep us out.
All right. Hey, that's on you. You're the editor.
Woo!
I'm very much in the no edit camp, but I think there is a certain degree of editing that has to be done.
Yeah, mostly just putting the two soundtracks together and making us not sound like idiots.
Good luck with that. Yeah, so name for the podcast. You have I'm sure they're doing their best, and I love that. I saw that in the document today, and I made the chef kissy noise sign. I think that is wonderful, because that cannot sum me up any better.
You know what? I can buy that domain name right now.
Oh, I say go for it. Speaking of, future topic, I'm going to table this one. Domain names you own, because I've got some doozies.
You know what? I don't have that many anymore.
Well, no, you still have the seminal genespace.com.
Yeah, that is true. I do have genespace.com. So Gene used to be both Drew and I's manager. It seems like another life ago, as I'm trying to type in my password and talk at the same time.
Why are you still typing your password? We've talked about this.
I'm actually not. My domain register of choice is Hover. I like Hover. It works for me, and I have two-factor authentication turned on. So I was actually I typed in my password into Authy so I can get my authentication code, so I could go and buy a domain name on the podcast.
I'm a Google domains guy, if I'm honest. It's worked out really well.
Doing their best. You know what? I heard about Hover on probably, like most things in my life, on another podcast. And I've just used it ever since. Not that I have a lot right now. Hey, doingtheirbest.com is available.
Sweet.
For now.
I don't think it needs to be much. I think it's just going to be, a series of links with show numbers and some notes.
Exactly.
Maybe a funny picture. I don't know.
So at genespace.com, if you go there, it is nothing but pictures of this wonderful man named Gene. Beautiful man named Gene.
That is, that was one of my first happy memories of IGS, was walking in, not even the first day, because I came into IGS when I worked there. I came in before I even started for a release night, and all the monitors on their lock screen had a picture of a face. And I had met Gene during the interview phase. I just didn't appreciate how much everybody else loved Gene until I got to work there. And
he's a wonderful man.
He is a wonderful man. I miss Gene a lot already. Hell, I miss Gene even when we were working together, because he was in so many meetings.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so that's our first official thing crossed off the list. I'm sure they're doing their best is our new podcast.
Yeah.
We need a tagline. What are we doing here? What is this? Is this?
I don't know. What is this? This is a show.
Is this a show?
This is a show.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's whatever we want to talk about.
That's my thought. Just pick a couple topics every week and just talk about stuff.
Yeah. All right, I'm down. I mean, this document was inside baseball. So for anybody listening at home, right? So Paul and I have been kicking around this idea for, I don't know, a year.
A year. Yeah,
and it's just one of those things where we spent crazy expensive money on nice microphones, full Dickerson, and we really wanted to do this thing, and life gets in the way, and we finally said, you know what, it's time, and we basically put together a Google document that we share where we just basically jotted down sheer randomness, and you really came through on this one. I started it, but you took it to another level here. I'm anxious to kind of jump into some of these things.
Yeah. Which one catches your eye?
Well, since we're talking about podcasts, I think it's a natural thing to talk about, what podcast we're listening to.
Indeed.
All right, so I'm going to kick this one off and say that, prior to meeting you and learning about how awesome you are, I was very much a history buff podcast. So I was really into the whole Dan Carlin hardcore history podcast. I think those are still Really, really good. Really well done. I don't think he's done one recently, but they're really, really good. But after meeting you and getting introduced to the Merlin podcast universe,
Yep.
obviously, I'm a huge fan of pretty much anything that Merlin Mann and or John Siracusa do. So for those people who don't know who they are, Merlin Mann, the person formerly known as Merlin Mann, he is basically a professional podcaster. He does, I think, 4 concurrent podcasts right now. He does
At least.
So his big one is, I guess, what do you call his biggest one? Back to Work.
Yeah, Back to Work is probably his longest running one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say that it is the one he's probably known the most for is Back to Work. And he also does a few other interesting podcasts. He does Reconcilable Differences with John Siracusa, which is also a fantastic podcast that is very much what I think this podcast is probably loosely based on, right?
Probably.
Except neither of us is nearly as interesting. He also does the amazing Do by Friday with co-host Max Temkin and Alex Cox. And
probably my favorite podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's probably my favorite podcast too. I really, really like Reconcilable Differences, but man, Dude by Friday is so good. It's so good.
Agreed.
I've started getting into Roderick on the Line. I don't know. I just can't. So Roderick on the Line is Merlin Mann and John Roderick talking to John Roderick. That's not me mincing my words, because John is such an interesting guy. But yeah, those are the ones I'm into today. And just because I saw Merlin tweet it, because I'm pretty gay for Merlin, he was talking about the Chernobyl podcast, which has a couple people talking about that new Chernobyl show on HBO, which topic I'm super interested in. So
I haven't watched it yet, but it's on my short list.
I have so many books about that. It is such a fascinating thing.
We should add it to the list.
We should add it to the list. I have to go back to my bookshelf and try to find all those books. All right, so hit me. What do you got?
So, I kind of changed the podcast I listen to quite a bit. Honestly, I'm kind of in this, the category of podcasts that are dudes talking to each other about technology. I'm in love with the Accidental Tech podcast.
Yeah, same.
With Marco Ahmet, John Siracusa again, and Casey List. They've been going on for years now, and it's just constantly good. It's very Mac focused. So if you're in, Apple, I would guess. I would say
a lot of Apple, a lot of cars.
Apple. Yes.
Video games occasionally.
A little bit, yeah. They have good chemistry. I generally agree with what they say. Sometimes not. I'm also a big fan of. I'm actually looking at my Overcast list right now. Overcast, great podcast player. If you don't have a podcast player, I recommend Overcast. It's really good. Upgrade. It's another.
That's one I haven't gotten into yet.
Yeah. It has Jason Snell and Mike Hurley. I believe those are the two guys behind the Relay FM podcast network in general, and they do a weekly podcast every Monday. It's a lot of tech news. It's very Apple focused, but they have a couple. One of my favorite segments is they call it Upstream, where they just talk about streaming media companies. For some reason, I am just hooked listening to that segment. It's truly good. I also can't get enough of the kind of changing gears here, the Shut Up and Sit Down podcast.
I don't listen to that enough. For as much as I love board games, I don't listen to that enough. I really don't.
So they, even though they tell me not to do this, the podcast kind of acts as a sounding board before they have a real critical opinion about a board game. So sometimes you'd be like, yeah, I kind of like this game. And then I buy it, and then they do the review and they don't like it anymore. Because as they get to play it, they find all of the quirks and stuff, and then I feel sad.
It's funny. So Shut Up and Sit Down. Great board game reviewers on ShutUpandSitDown.com.
ShutUpandSitDown.com.
ShutUpandSitDown.com. They do board game reviews. I find that their tastes really, really mirror mine. Of all the different board game review sites and podcasts and videos that I've watched, consistently I find that I share a lot of the same opinions that Quinn's and Paul did. Matt is a little out there for me. I love Matt. He's great. But those three are hilarious. And they do quality work. They've always been really good at producing their videos, but man, the last 6 months or so, some of those videos are ridiculously good.
They're just consistently good. And I've been watching their stuff. Their video reviews are what they're known for. I've been watching their stuff for a while, and it's very interesting to see how the professionalism and the production quality has improved over the years. Those guys are running on all cylinders. Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as far as, are there any podcasts, I think I know what you're going to say here, but are there any podcasts that aren't active anymore that you wish still were?
Hypercritical comes to mind.
That's exactly where I was going.
Yep. Hypercritical was John Syracuse's first podcast. So if you don't know who John Syracuse is he's present tense. He became internet famous by writing these painfully, comically thorough Mac OS reviews back from the when Mac graduated from classic Mac into the new modern Mac OS 10. And he did a lot of them for Ars Technica. And he started a podcast with Dan Benjamin on the 5x5 network, I believe. John Syracuse has this ability to truly be critical about the things he loves. So
Fair.
he would just talk about things with such a different perspective. And he's utterly deadpan, just the straightest straight man I've ever heard. Comedy wise, there's hardly a funny bone in his body. He is almost serious all the time.
But when he wants to be,
that's true.
When he jumps in,
yeah. So some of my favorite stuff in the Hypercritical was his podcasts on toaster ovens and game controllers. I think he over a series of podcasts he literally talked and reviewed every game controller that every major console game controller. It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I mean that podcast for me too, which I love. He did a lot of amazing episodes of that. Hypercritical is a great podcast, and that's what kind of got me hooked on John, because I had heard him on ATP, and I'd heard him on a couple other podcasts, and I'm like, I just don't get this guy. And then after you listen to Hypercritical, man, he's so good. Sometimes John Syracuse likes some of my tweets, and part of me just my heart just soars. So
I'm a little jealous.
Dude, you just gotta jump on some of those threads, man. You gotta be reply guy.
I guess I have to be reply guy.
Yeah. I miss that Hypercritical is no longer a thing, although you can still get them. You Look Nice Today was also really good.
I also enjoyed that thoroughly.
Yeah. You Look Nice Today was also a really great pod.
Yeah. Who was... I always forget the cast of that.
A Journal of Emotional Hygiene.
Yeah. Lonely Sandwich, Scott Simpson, and Hot Dogs Ladies, who is Merlin Mann. So Lonely Sandwich is... Oh, I forget who he was. That link goes to a Twitter account that is private.
Certainly does.
Yeah.
Adam Lizagor, right?
That's it.
Lizagor? I forgot how to say his name.
Yeah. Both are
Scott
acceptable.
Simpson. Yeah, Scott Simpson and Merlin.
Merlin Mann. Yep.
Merlin.
So how would you describe the You Look Nice Today podcast?
Oh boy. It's just some guys. It is prepared by adults in quotes. It's just guys of a certain age talking about guys with certain ages problems.
Exactly.
I think that's probably the nicest way I can do it.
And all extremely funny guys.
Really, really funny.
Yep.
Oh, there's one other podcast that I wasn't even aware about until I was in the Do by Friday sphere of influence. Is Chapo Trap House.
I need to check that out.
Oh boy. Start at the beginning. Just like Do by Friday, there's a lot of inside jokes and a lot of running gags. It helps if you start at the beginning. Those guys and gals are hilarious. They are good. They are really good. So, wow, that's a lot of podcasts. I don't know what else we forget. I feel like there's other podcasts we're forgetting. I don't even know. I mean, those are the ones I have on repeat in my car.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few more because I have a 45-minute commute each way to work every day, so I have quite a few podcasts. One that's speaking of John Siracusa, this is going to be the John Siracusa fanboy hour.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to it, Robot or Not.
I haven't listened to that yet, but
yeah. So each episode's about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes long. They literally start the first kind of season of the podcast. They literally mention something, and then John Siracusa tells the hosts whether it's a robot or not. So, example, Darth Vader, not a robot. A Roomba is a robot.
So it's just John Siracusa telling you what a robot is or not.
Yeah, it's John Siracusa and Jason Snell. But then after they kind of went through all the robots, they kind of do every week they do a short little topic. One example would be bagels. What makes a bagel? What is the canonical list of bagel flavors? The most recent one, let's see if I can find it. Board games. They talked about board games and what makes a board game.
Oh no! Paul? Should I listen to this?
I think you would agree.
Okay,
but it's a very clinical answer.
Oh no!
Another good one recently was live action. What makes a live action movie? With so many movies having special effects, what makes a and they're pretty short. They're like 5-10 minutes.
All right, so let me see if I'm dialed into this topic. So, diverging here for a minute. So, live action. I would consider John Wick to be live action. True or false?
True.
Okay, all right. I think I've got it dialed in, but I'm still going to listen. That is one podcast. I actually have it in my Overcast list. I just haven't.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, do you have anything that are really obscure? obscure podcasts.
I love seeing some of the new titles of some of the new podcasts because some new episodes came out today, and I don't know if you saw this week's title of Do by Friday, but man, they never disappoint.
Honestly, I just looked at it and I laughed out loud.
Yeah, we can't swear.
No.
That might be a cuss. We can't be cussing.
No swears here.
No swears here. No, I think that's it. I guess I've purged a lot of the podcasts I used to listen to because I was doing just a shout out, just because I'm such a huge fan and patron, is Friendship Fitness, the place I work out. Jeff, the owner, does a podcast. It's pretty good. So he's at the Friendship Fitness podcast. It's hosted on his website and on Anchor and on iTunes. He's pretty good. He's got a lot of unique life experience and perspective, and I was on one of his podcasts once, so that was pretty fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. They talk about all kinds of stuff. They talk about fitness. They talk about kind of whole life happiness and just motivational stuff. It's pretty good. Jeff does a really good job, and he interviews different people from the gym, whether they're idiots like me or just random people, or actually inspirational people. Because there's a couple people that go to Friendship that are pretty interesting people. Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Man, I really got to get on Robot or Not. I can't believe I haven't listened to that yet. I feel guilty.
You should.
I should. Okay. Let's see. What else are we doing here? I think we need to table the second topic for just a bit. I want to talk about the things that spark joy. I want to start there.
I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Topic: things that always spark joy. Doesn't have to be tech, but it probably will be. And man, are mine a lot of tech.
Mine are too.
Yeah, I really tried. My second one on the list is truly something that I enjoy because it makes me happy for a couple reasons I'll go into. But man, there's a lot of tech on that list. You take it away. You go first.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to add one more real quick here. So you know what? I'm going to start with the new one. So I have one thing that I use almost every day. So my father-in-law is extremely handy. He's very engineering inclined. He's good with wood. And he made my wife and I a set of handmade wooden letter openers. They're just beautiful, and I literally use them every single day. They're sharp. They tear through paper like nothing.
Okay,
it's just nice because.
All right. Let me stop you. All right, so let's step through this. So they're handmade wooden letter openers. All right. So are do they have a wooden handle with a blade, or are they strictly wood?
They're strictly wood, so it looks like a knife, but the handle and the blade are made out of wood. Highly polished. They look lacquered. I'll take a picture and put them in the show notes. I'll assume we have show notes.
So wait, okay, hold on. I'm still a little confused. So is it made out of one piece of wood, or did he take a piece of wood for the blade and then attach it to another piece of wood for the handle?
I think that's what he did.
Okay, yeah. So there's no quote unquote hardware on this.
Nope, all wood.
Okay,
they are beautiful. You know what? If you give me a minute, I'll send you a picture.
Okay, I mean you can just send it to the phone. That's fine.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
All right, I'm intrigued. See, that's such a good answer to this, and I have dumb stuff. Oh, I have dumb answers to this. Things are happening. He's going into a drawer. I can hear the noise.
All right, I'm back. I'm going to send you a picture.
All right. Yeah, I'm waiting for this picture because such a good answer. Such a good answer to this thing. I don't have a letter opener. I'm still the guy that writes checks for his bills, so I open letters all the time.
All right, it's sending.
Okay.
Bam.
Oop, boom, Paul Baylor. Ooh. Okay, all right.
So, right?
All right, let me take a stab at this. Okay, so imagine a steak knife. A steak knife with no serration that's made out of wood. And I can't tell from that angle, but it looks like it's one piece of wood.
It is actually three. If you look at the side, I'll send you another picture here. There's the blade piece and two additional pieces that make up the handle.
Oh, so so he's got a wooden tang in there. He's got his tang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the tang.
All the tang.
All the tang. All the
time.
time.
They call that TANGE. I think is how they say that. That's pretty nice. That's a really good gift. Man, yeah. I'm not that handy.
I'm not either. I can hurt myself using a screwdriver, so
I'm pretty sure if I needed a letter opener, I would just 3D print one. I probably wouldn't even go to the store. Oh wow, look at that handle.
Yeah. I've never owned a letter opener before. I would just open my mail with like my finger.
Yeah.
But these are so ridiculously handy and they work so well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Does he sell these?
No, he doesn't sell these. He just makes them for his children.
Okay.
And probably his friends. But yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think it's one of those situations where he's got a really nice woodworking like garage. He's got a nice garage full of tools. A shop. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. And he uses it to kind of just be by himself and not talk to people.
Yeah, work with the wood. The wood doesn't talk back.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. That's really nice. That is such a good answer to this section. Keep going. I'll let you go.
You next. We'll take turns.
All right. So mine is such. Oh God. All right. So the first thing on my list is an Apple Magic Mouse. Now, context, right? So about a year, no, not even that long. Yeah, about a year ago, I decided that I was just done with Windows as my daily driver OS. And I switched to Linux. I basically installed Linux on a laptop and used that as my daily driver for a while. And I realized once I got over, the fact that I didn't know anything about Linux, that I really didn't need Windows anymore. And once I kind of got comfortable with that thought, I went back to Mac. So I bought a MacBook Pro. I use that as my daily driver for work, and I use it for side projects. And that is the computer that I'm hopefully going to continue to use in my new endeavors. I'm told that I can. We'll see how that goes. But I love using my Mac. And as part of that, of course, I'm in the Mac ecosystem, right? So, hashtag Dongletown. And, I wanted to have a nice working area to use my MacBook Pro. So I bought a nice aluminum stand to set the laptop on, and thanks to you, I have a really, really nice 5K monitor for the display, which just is amazing. And then as part of that as well, because I have the laptop off to the side, I have invested in the Apple Pro keyboard, wireless, and the Apple Magic Mouse, which is officially the first thing on my list. Okay, so there's the context. So, pet peeve. I think that having a bunch of monitors is probably one of the weirdest flexes I've seen IT professionals do. I think that it's some kind of weird, like it's peacocking, right? Like, I've got 6 monitors on my desk, and I can have Sysmon open on one, and I can have my SQL queries open over here, and I can have my, my Twitter on this single monitor, right? And I have taken such a minimalistic approach to my desk these days, where I want to have as few things on it as possible. So people are like, I've got 4 monitors and I can have all these things open. And I'm like, I can probably do more with 1 monitor than you can do with 4. Because listen, Apple, and by the way, Apple's not alone here. Pretty much every major operating system has this, is you can do mission control and you can have multiple desktops. And I'll tell you, with the Apple Magic Mouse, it makes it so effortless to swipe back and forth between your virtual desktops, and you just can move, right? And if you do need to remote into a server or VM, or to do some work that I can't necessarily do on Mac OS, being able to flip over to my VM window full screen with the flick of 2 fingers across the face of my beautifully sculpted mouse that fits in my hand perfectly, I love it. I love it. It has enabled me to have such amazing workflows that are just really, really good. And I think it's a fantastic piece of hardware, and it's rechargeable. It doesn't necessarily, I don't need to, kill the earth with a ton of batteries. And it's just a really, really nice mouse. And you can set it up for left and right clicks, right? Because I am a right click kind of guy, till I die. I don't do the command click thing.
Me either.
And the fact that it's wireless is, if I need to pack a bag and go somewhere, I just turn off the mouse and I drop it in my backpack and I take it with me. Like, it just I don't need to necessarily leave it on my desk. It just kind of travels around with me. I don't have any problems using, the touchpad life, but I love that mouse because I can get the same functionality from the touchpad. I can swipe 2 fingers across the touchpad to switch virtual desktops and mission control. But I just really, really enjoy using the Magic Mouse. I just think it's really good, and it's cordless, right? It's one less thing hanging on my desk. I don't know. Am I weird? I think that's where I'm at.
No, I'm a big fan of mice. I'm using a Magic Mouse right now as well. I do not use one at work. I have had issues in the past with RSI, some carpal tunnel issues. So I find if I use them for a long period of time, it really aggravates my wrists and elbow. But I love the look at them. I love how they feel. I love the features. So I spend less time at the computer at home, so I use a Magic Mouse here, and I enjoy it.
All right, down. All right, so I'm looking at your list because we're going to go back and forth here, and we're gonna fold my number 3 and your number 2 into the same, because you spent more money on the same thing that I have here.
I did.
And I've been having this conversation with multiple people recently for reasons we'll get into here. So go ahead, you kick this one off.
Okay, so I'm gonna start by saying this is I am a backup nerd. I love backing up my computers and my phones. I'm always worried about the backups how many backups I have and where they are. And one of the key things in my life that I use for backups is a little home NAS which, if you're not aware, stands for network attached storage. Basically, it's a bunch of hard drives. I have the Synology DS918 Plus. I have 4 8 terabyte drives installed in there. I have SSD caches, the works. I absolutely love this thing. Its primary use for me is it is a time machine target for both mine and my wife's MacBooks. I also back up my son's gaming machine nightly to it as well. So that's its primary purpose, is just for backups. I've also kind of fallen in love with Plex. So Plex is it's a media kind of if you have a lot of like movies and audio that you own and you want a good place to kind of host that and watch it from, Plex is great for that. So I run Plex on my NAS. I've taken all of my old Blu-rays that I've owned and ripped them, put them on the NAS. I'm also a fan of finding concerts on YouTube and downloading them and putting those on my NAS as well. Yeah, so it's just great. It's something that I use every day, but I hardly ever think of. It's actually off right now because it's in my office and there's always something writing to it. So the hard drives are always clicking, and it's really annoying, and I didn't want that to be on the audio. So I've actually turned it off for this podcast. I'm sure at some point I'll forget and you'll hear clicks, this constant.
Yeah, spinning rust. Nice. There's a bunch of spinning rust in there.
Yep. So you also have a Synology.
I do. And okay, all right. So let's take a step back for a second, right? So part of the reason that it's like some people might be listening and saying, "Well, I've got an external hard drive. Why do you guys like NASes so much?" So here's the thing: commercial, consumer, prosumer, professional NASes these days are so much more than just storage. So if you invest in something like a Synology, or the one I had before this was a QNAP, they are basically little computers that sit on your network. Their primary focus is to store stuff, whether they're backups or media or other stuff. They do that flawlessly, but one thing they do now is they have their own concept of apps. So you mentioned Plex. I'm also a huge Plex person, right?
Plex is great.
You can download and install with minimal effort Plex on your NAS, and it just runs, right? You don't need to dedicate a separate computer to that in your media center or something. You basically just have that on your home network. You download the Plex app, and you're good to go. But there's so much more than that, right? There is additional backup hardware. There are virus scanners. You can basically download an open source version of Active Directory and run it on some of these NASes. You can do VPN servers. You can do
I have a VPN
mail
server.
servers.
Yep.
Right? All of these things have different separate little apps that make getting started with this really, really easy to use. So they're little Swiss Army knives built around this tenet of massive storage. So okay, having said that, right? So Paul has what I consider to be basically the prosumer Cadillac version of these NASes. A buddy of mine out in Colorado has the same model, and you can drop M2 SSDs in it, as well
which I did.
Which you did, because if you're going to invest in this thing, why wouldn't you?
Because I have more money than sense.
Yeah, same, right? Okay. I didn't go that route, and part of it was the money issue, because when you factor in the fact that the 918 is $600 some, I think, on Amazon right now. I didn't check.
I didn't check either.
Yeah, I want to say it's north of $600, and that's just for the hardware. You still have to factor in buying the hard drives. Right? So you're going to be, depending on the capacity of the hard drives you put in this thing, there's going to be additional cost. Now, having said that, you're talking about a device that is going to sit on your network, serve multiple purposes, but most importantly is going to probably be a place you back up your pictures or your tax returns or your videos or your movies or whatever, right? So you want to go into this with a little bit of an open mind. You want to spend some money, but have a budget. So with that in mind, I went with a slightly lesser version of this, which is the DS418. So DS is the model or the make, I guess, of this thing. Stands for Disk Station.
Right.
And my model is the 418. Functionally, it looks a lot like the one that Paul bought. It's got 4 hard drive bays. It does not have SSD slots. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't opt for that other than the whole budget thing here in a minute. But I went with 4 6-terabyte drives in a mirroring capacity. So basically, I have roughly 12 terabytes mirrored for storage.
Weak sauce.
I know. Hey, listen. I'm going through a transition. Money's an issue. I just, I didn't want to spend.
I understand.
Money. Yeah,
I understand.
So having a NAS, right? So I consider myself to be a little bit of a home labber, right? If you want to see people go off on the deep end and stuff, there is an entire subreddit of r/homelab on Reddit, where people basically find excuses to buy old server hardware and put them in their basement. And I sort of fall into this camp. I just dropped something. I sort of fall into that camp where I basically have a bunch of hardware in my basement that I use for labbing and prototyping and learning, because I'm always trying to figure something else out. So to put things in perspective right now, I have a Metro cart in my back cellar right now. It's got a couple old Dell servers on there that are not powered on, and I've got a machine running back there that acts as kind of my virtual host. So I'm running VMware to run a bunch of VMs on an AMD Threadripper based machine that I built, and it's great. It's fine. So having said that, I didn't necessarily need to buy the biggest horsepower NAS that I did, because my ultimate goal was to spin up a VM dedicated to running Plex. So I could give it a little more hardware, a little more horsepower than some of these NASs that you can buy off the shelf, right? So my setup is probably way different than the vast majority of people who are going to buy a NAS and use it at home. So I'm very much like you. My primary NAS function is for backup. However, over the years, I have basically adopted the whole cattle not pets idea of my computers, to where if I lose a hard drive on a computer today, I'm not really out much. I basically have all of my important pictures, all of my important documents, all of my important stuff out in the cloud. I'm a big OneDrive user, and I have some stuff in Google Drive as well. So all of the things that I truly, truly care about, like if my house took a Tomahawk missile hit, I'm not really out anything, because all my stuff's in the cloud that I really, truly care about. Yeah,
it's smart. Like these days, you need a good cloud backup. I personally use Backblaze only because I don't have to think about it. I use that on mine and my wife's computer. Backblaze just runs in the background. It just uploads everything up to a bunch of servers in California, which I like, because same thing. Like if my house got, tanked tomorrow, I could order a hard drive from Backblaze and have all of my files restored like that.
Yeah, and see, I don't even go that far, because here's the thing. I reformat my home computers a lot, just because I'm always messing them up somehow, or I want to try an insider build of something. So I am not shy about just blowing away my computer configuration and starting over. That is something that I do pretty much on the regs several times a year for reasons, right? Because I'm a weirdo. But I don't do disk level backups of my computers at home, just because, again, all the things I truly care about are pretty much cloud enabled today. So Google Photos, cloud enabled. OneDrive, where I drop most of my documents, important scripts or projects that I'm working on, I'll drop in there. GitHub, right? So if I'm working on a project at home, I create a private repo, I push stuff up to it. Again, if I lose a hard drive, don't really care too much. It's going to just be fine, because I could always just, clone my repo and pick up right where I left off, right? Assuming that I did a push, before whatever reason I had to reformat my hard drive. But I am not going to lose all of my work. And I don't, again, like my games, I have ridiculously good internet at home, so I don't necessarily worry about re-downloading a bunch of games. Most of them are cloud saves. I'm not going to lose anything. So that's a really long way of saying that, yes, my NAS does serve a backup function, but it has nothing to do with so much individual files. So my NAS at home I use for media. So you're talking music, pictures, movies, stuff like that.
Right.
All that stuff goes on my NAS. The other thing I do a lot at home is I do a lot of kind of development and learning work and lab work. I set up CIFS and NFS shares on my NAS, and I tie those. Okay, I tie those to different development environments I'm working on. So if I spin up a VM and I need more storage than I'm willing to dedicate to SSD, I will carve out a volume on my NAS of 40 or 60 gigs or whatever and attach it to that. I've been playing a lot with Kubernetes, and I built a Raspberry Pi based Kubernetes cluster. Those don't have a lot of storage on them, so when I want persistent volumes and persistent volume claims, CIF share. I basically have the same share defined on all the devices, and they can all claim storage as they need. So I use it in kind of quote unquote production environment at home for stuff like that. And I've got other stuff on there that I share across the network. The stuff that, I don't think people would be interested in me saying out loud, that I share across the network at home. So I love my NAS. I recently upgraded to Synology from a QNAP. Those are kind of the two big players in the home NAS realm. Synology is perfectly fine. I think it's a great piece of hardware. My QNAP was perfectly adequate. It was just old, and I just wanted something new. And I basically sold the old one, and my NAS is something that I literally use every day, whether I kind of realize it or not. It's just having a nice one at home is so cool. And my NAS sits in the basement with the rest of my equipment, but if my house was on fire, I'd make sure my wife and dog got out. But I probably would try to save my NAS. There's a lot of stuff on there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like fourth on my list of things I would get if there was a fire or tornado. Kids, pets. We have some medicine that we need to make sure we get, and then my Synology.
Yeah. Everything else I can rebuild. I just a lot of my stuff's in the cloud. I feel pretty confident about it. I don't think the providers I've chosen are necessarily going anywhere. So I'm pretty confident that I don't need multiple cloud sources right now, but that may change in the future. We'll see. Wow. Man, we're big NAS fans, turns out.
Turns out.
All right, what do you got?
So I want to talk about Logitech Harmony remotes.
Oh, okay. All right. You go, and then I'm going to rebut.
Oh, there is no rebuttal. So I don't like having lots of remotes out. There's a remote that comes with my sound bar, my TV, my Apple TV, my Blu-ray player. I don't want to deal with it. So I've been a Logitech Harmony remote fan for a long time. And what they kind of do is they're a universal remote, but they don't work how other remotes work. You don't have to think about, well, I want to control the TV, so I'm going to put it in TV mode, and then when I want to watch a movie, I have to make sure that it's on the third input and turn this on and turn that off. It comes with a piece of software, which I will have to say, the Logitech Harmony remote software is god awful. I think it still runs on Silverlight. It is not friendly, but you don't have to use it very much. So when you go into the software, you set up activities like watch Apple TV or watch cable TV or watch a Blu-ray or play a video game. And for each activity, you tell the remote what devices are on, what devices are off, and if there's an input like I need to be on HDMI 3 for this, or set the sound bar to this input. It manages all that for you. So you get a nice little display. It's great for my wife and kids because they don't have to know, they don't have to remember anything. If I go back behind the TV and rewire stuff, I can just reprogram the remote. They go. I actually have two. I only have two TVs in my house, one upstairs and one downstairs, and I have two Harmony remotes. I think I have the Logitech Harmony 1, which I think has been replaced by the Harmony Pro, and I have another one upstairs. But my wife can just pick up the remote and say, "Oh, I want to watch the Apple TV," and she pushes a button, and it just does everything. It turns all the TVs on. It sets the right input. They don't have to think about it. If for some reason something goes wrong, you can walk through a help where it says, hey, is this device on? Is this device off? Is this in the right thing? So if there's ever a failure, it's also nice for when the in-laws come to visit, because if they want to watch TV, they don't have to think about, I don't have to teach them anything. There's no index card with instructions. They pick up the remote, press what they want. The remote, turns into a mode just for what they're doing. I love them. Can't stress enough about them. They're a little pricey. If you get like a really nice one that's like Wi-Fi enabled, they can run like $250 to $300. Well, $350 for the high end, which is what I have. But I love them. All of my device remotes are in a drawer, never to be seen again. The batteries are probably dead on them. Can't say enough. So, what's your rebuttal? Hit me.
Oh, Paul. Okay, listen. I have owned Harmony remotes in my day. And I got to tell you, on the surface, they seem like amazing technological devices. And I get it, right? Modern TV equipment is not easy. There are wires everywhere. And I get it. You want an easy way to manage all that. So, again, little context here. We're cord cutters in this house. So we don't have cable. We don't have cable boxes anymore. So if you're in my house and you're watching TV, you are watching probably Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, or YouTube. Period. Full stop. That's or Plex, right? So all of these things are app controlled and they are run through some sort of smart Wi-Fi enabled device. So my house, we have 3 TVs. I would say that 2 really get use and 1 does not. So the bedroom, the downstairs, and the living room. So the bedroom is probably the one that gets used the most because we usually watch TV in bed. And we have a Roku stick. And modern Roku sticks basically are one remote. That remote can power on your TV and control the volume and control the controls for the Roku, period. That's all you need. It is a very simple remote with some arrows and an OK button. Like, that's all that it has to do. And it works great. And you can get Rokus that do 4K or not do 4K if you're like us and you still have a 1080p TV in the bedroom. And it works beautifully. It is dead simple. Now, I recently redid my living room at home, where I got rid of probably an overly complex, what I would call traditional kind of home theater system, right? We had a receiver, we had a DVD player in there. Yes, we had a DVD player. We had a Roku stick in there as well. And we had the TV. Now, that room was traditionally run through a Harmony remote that honestly was probably a little too old, and I'm maybe being a little overly critical in the fact that thing was old, but I never really liked it. I thought it was going to be better than it was, but I never really liked using it. And
so
go ahead.
I had I've been a Harmony customer for a long time, and some of the earlier remotes were pretty janky. The design of them has gotten a lot better over the years. Most of them now have like little touch screens. Mine that I have now is Alexa enabled. But see, I have something kind of in between a simple, just, internet streaming device and a traditional home theater setup. I don't have a receiver anymore because I just couldn't stand dealing with all the wires and running speaker cables underneath.
Totally agree. Yeah. So that's where I'm going with this, right? So yeah. I recently redid the living room, and I got a brand new TV, and I got a Sonos soundbar, and an Apple TV. And guess how many remotes I have?
I'm guessing you just use the Apple TV remote.
I just use the Apple TV remote because
I can't stand that thing.
I know. I'm not saying it's a good remote, but I'm just saying you need one remote. And here's why. Modern TVs have the audio return channel interface now, right? So you basically plug in your soundbar or your sound system into the ARC port on your TV, and you never have to touch a volume control for your sound device ever again. So you're eliminating the need for one remote because your TV is going to control that volume through the ARC port on your TV. You never have to do anything with a Sonos remote or even the Sonos app for that matter. Once the Sonos is like set up initially, you basically plug that thing in And regardless of what remote you want to use, whether it be the Apple TV remote or my Vizio remote for my TV, volume up and down controls the Sonos and it works great. So I've already eliminated one remote right there. Now, again, cord cutting. I know that Vizio has built-in apps and Wi-Fi and all that stuff, but it's Java and it's garbage, and I don't want to deal with it. So I bought an Apple TV 4K for it because it's a 4K TV, and that's where all the apps live that we use. And you literally can just pick up the Apple TV remote, hit a button on it. Doesn't really necessarily matter which button. It turns on the TV, it turns on the soundbar, and it turns on the Apple TV all at once, and I just navigate, and it's great. Now, I'm not saying that Harmony remotes don't solve problems for, if you've got like 6 different HDMI devices plugged in there, right? Like, that probably solves that problem beautifully. But, for my money, the fact that the only video game console I have in the house is an Xbox One X downstairs, and even then, that never necessarily changes input because guess what? I can use apps on that thing to watch my streaming as well. So I found that basically saying, fixing the problem by not having a fancy remote and just basically going to one device that kind of controls everything has kind of been my saving grace. And I think that Logitech, not that they're going to sponsor us, but I think that they're I think that they're pretty scummy with the information collection and the fact that they will brick your devices if they decide that they're not going to support that anymore. Because I'm pretty sure last time I set up a Harmony remote, you basically have to have an account and you have to log in.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And the software is awful. It's just truly awful. And luckily, now I'm at a point where I only have to open it when I get a new device. Like if I buy a new TV, I can go in there, just switch out the model and update the remote, and I'm done. So I love the remotes, but the software is hot garbage. Garbage.
Yeah. And if I could find like a third-party Apple remote, I think I could use my phone technically, but if I could use a third-party remote for the Apple TV, I would be set up there. Like I don't know. Yeah, I can't get on board with that one, buddy. Can't do it.
Boo.
Okay, so I am not necessarily... Oh, God, that is such a false statement. I'm not even going to say it out loud. I am a bit of a snob when it comes to various things. And over the years, I have developed a taste for good audio output.
Same.
So, yeah. So in my basement, where I'm recording this podcast right now, I have various pieces of audio equipment for either giving remote presentations or listening to music or playing games. And as such, I don't want to rely on whatever, not necessarily crappy, but probably not great audio interface is built into my motherboard. I believe that everybody should invest in some sort of digital audio interface for their computer. And after doing a ton of research and talking to probably the most authoritative person on the planet who knows about these things, and you know who I'm talking about, basically finding the best affordable yet best sounding bang for your buck audio interface has been a journey. And I have had this particular device I'm going to talk about next, for about a year. And it has been great. It is a pre-box S2 digital by a company called Project Audio. And it is a small audio interface that plugs into USB on your computer and acts as a digital output device. It has a headphone jack. It has optical output on the back, and it has stereo output on the back as well. It has a bunch of filters built into it, and it has some other little cool features you can do for depending on the activity that you're using. It also supports external power, so you can have a clean power source to the device instead of relying on USB power only. You do not have to plug it into an external power device, but they highly recommend that you do, and that you buy a nice shielded power supply for it, which I think cost me another $8 or so on Amazon. They sell them on Amazon. They sell them through a lot of different audio distribution channels, and it has been a really solid device. I have found that I don't have to fiddle with it very much once I have it dialed in to basically get awesome audio output from games or Spotify or whatever I'm doing on my computer. I've also have this paired to a really nice set of headphones. I'm not a person who thinks you need a $3,000 pair of headphones, but you should probably invest in a $500 or $600 pair of headphones. You will notice how good they are once you listen to them, and I did. Again, I have access to somebody who has a kink for headphones, so I got to listen to a bunch of different types of headphones. And I eventually settled on a pair that are very comfortable to wear. It sound very good, and I forget what the model number is. I'll probably have to go back and add them to the show notes, but having that audio device as kind of the bridge between my computer and my headphones has been sort of a game changer, and I'm really glad that I made that investment when I did. Because if you're working or you're doing something, you're probably going to have headphones in, and having a nice audio device in between is kind of crucial.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually looking at this right now because I'm actually in the market for a better digital audio device on my desk.
It comes in white.
I know it does. I have a really nice amp at work that I use because I spend most of my time there listening to music. At home, I just have it's by a company called the model is it's a full of shit.
The shit stack. Yeah.
The shit stack. Yeah.
That's what it's called. That is literally what it's called.
Yep. So I have one of those. It's the little one. I love the knob. So I have one major gripe with this, and I have to get off my chest. So it's this little, aluminum rectangle about the size of a deck of cards. And on the bottom are little rubber feet. Unfortunately, there's only 3 of them. 2 in the front on each corner and 1 in the back in the middle. Which means is every time I go to put my hand on this thing, it rocks. Kind of side to side on the back corners. And it is really annoying. I love the knob. It was inexpensive. It sounds okay for the headphones I have here, but it just rocks. Yeah. But it's just annoying. It just rocks constantly back and forth. I'm playing with it right now as I'm talking about it.
So I should say that when I was in the market for my home audio interface, the shit stack definitely ranked up there. You can get that shit stack, which is actually 2 devices, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's actually one for the AIO and then one for the output to your headphones. So it's actually 2 devices connected by a bunch of wires. So if you're cool with that, that is a great option. It's very affordable and it sounds amazing. The device that I was looking at through shit was the Jotunheim, which is a little more expensive. And when you buy it, you basically have to tell it, I want it with a USB audio interface, or else you're going to get a device you can't plug it in your computer. That is also a really good company that makes really good products. But this thing is adorable. It's not very big. It just kind of sits there. It looks nice. It's got a nice LCD display on the front.
It looks beautiful.
It is. It is really nice. I'm very happy with it.
All right.
And you have one more thing on your Spark Joy list as well.
I do. Now, I don't use this every day. I probably use it 2 to 3 times a week. So I have a family, wife, kids, and we all need to eat. And I am comically lazy. I don't mind cooking, but I'd rather not. So one of the devices that gets coveted counter space in my kitchen is an Instapot. I don't have a super expensive one. It's not huge. I think they're going for, let me see, about $100 on Amazon right now. But I love cooking in this thing. We eat, I have picky kids. They're not very adventurous. So I make a lot of just plain chicken breasts. And it is great to be able to go from literally frozen chicken breasts, throw them in the Instapot, and 25 minutes later, I have perfectly cooked chicken every time. I just throw a little bit of chicken stock in there, some salt, whatever seasoning I have around. And it is just great. I also cook a mean set of baby back ribs. I do some carnitas pork in there. I love them. I love this thing. It feeds my family. And the great thing is, once I turn it on, I can walk away. Don't have to watch it. Don't have to babysit it. It's not going to burn. It's not going to spill over. It just cooks my food great every time. Everybody should have an Instapot. They're amazing. That's all I have to say.
Wow. Yeah, we're Instapot users in the house as well. We cook a lot of things in there. I don't do the majority of the cooking in the house, and by majority I mean none. But my wife is a huge fan.
I do. Yeah, my wife can't cook. She can bake. But her, like, really, it's like pancakes and grilled cheese. That's where she's at.
I don't even think I'm there, honestly. At one point when I was more self-sufficient, I could do that. But I have, like, kind of like how we domesticated wolves and they became dogs and they lost all their good skills to stay alive in the wilderness. That's kind of me. I've kind of lost my ability to cook or work in the kitchen at all. That was a hell of a list.
That's a good list.
That was a good list. That was a good talk. That ate up a solid 40 minutes.
It did.
Yeah. Okay, how about this? Let's roll into the last item on the list, and then depending on our time, maybe we can table the second thing, because I have thoughts about that.
I agree. So I was kind of just thinking, both Drew and I are big board game fans. While I don't have quite the collection Drew does, I have a pretty significant collection myself. And I was kind of looking at them the other day as I was making room in my closet for more board games. I had one game in particular, a couple of games that are just garbage. They are not good. The rules are cumbersome, but I just can't get rid of them because I love it for reasons that I shouldn't. So I kind of wanted to talk about board games in our collection that aren't good, but we just can't get rid of. So why don't you go first and tell me about a board game that you love despite how bad it is?
Okay. All right. So the number one board game in my collection that I will probably never get rid of, even though everybody that I've ever introduced it to hates it, I think that it's problematic. But I think that the concept is amazing. The execution is a little bit flawed. And it takes forever to play, but I love it anyway. And it's Fortress America. And in parentheses, I'm going to say 2012, because Fortress America was a game that came out in the 80s, I believe. Maybe even a little bit later than that. Maybe the 90s. I got to go back and look at the Board Game Geek page. But it is a game that I had played originally well before they issued before Fantasy Flight Games issued a reprint in 2012. And I played that with some friends in Columbus shortly after I had moved here, and it was great because my previous experience with a board game of this ilk was Axis and Allies in a college dorm where we were missing half the pieces, and it took us forever to play because everybody had a different interpretation of the rules, and it just was bad. But this was like the first really big, deep strategic game that I had played. And it's actually a really great concept where basically the premise of the game is the United States develops these super lasers that can shoot down missiles and can hit any target in the world pretty much without repercussions. There's no defense against it. The United States is the only country that has this technology. And all the other countries of the world basically gang up on the United States and try to invade. So it's a game for 2 to 4 players, where one person plays as the United States, and their goal is to basically just survive a certain number of turns. Meanwhile, the rest of the players, again, players 2, 3, and 4 in this scenario, play different coalitions of countries, and they attack the United States from a different direction. So the European/communist players will attack from the eastern seaboard. The Asian Pacific countries will attack from the west coast, and the Latin American countries will attack from the south. And they all have an objective where they're trying to take a certain number of cities away from the U.S. to facilitate their win conditions. And then once they eliminate the United States player, they initially have to work together, but in the end of the game, they will kind of jockey for position to see who is ultimately the winner. So it's co-op, but not. And there's different action cards, and the United States player has the ability to shoot lasers at things to eliminate units, and there's different types of units like bombers and aircraft and infantry and tanks, and it all sounds so great when you sit and you actually lovingly talk about it. But in practice, it is a complete mess of a game. And it just is finicky with the rules and how you move and how you can invade but move through spaces. And there's just a lot of little nuanced, little finicky rules that just, it doesn't translate well. Now, when I first played this game in the early 2000s, I played the original print before Fantasy Flight did a reprint. And not that game didn't have its problems, but they made some rules tweaks in the 2012 version that I think were better. But playing the 2012 version just, I don't think is as good as the older one. And I think, played it 3 times since it's been in my collection. Each time has not been good. I don't think anybody has enjoyed it. But I will probably never get rid of it. I just think that it's a cool game, cool concept, decent artwork. Yeah, I don't know. I will probably never get rid of it.
Yeah, so mine is not nearly as dramatic as that. So I've been playing board games since I've been a kid. But board games when I was younger, I mean, they don't compare. But one of my favorite games is a game that came out in 1983. I was first exposed to it in 1985 by the fine folks at Milton Bradley. And it is a game called Scotland Yard. It is a hidden movement game. It may be one of the earliest hidden movement games that I can find. So basically, one player plays as the mysterious Mr. X. And the board is this, I think it's London or something. I don't know. Somewhere in Europe. I'm very bad at geography. It's this huge map of, I'm going to say London. And it has a bunch of spaces connected by either taxi, bus, or subway lines. And Mr. X is moving around and trying to avoid being caught by Scotland Yard, these detectives. But the size of the board and the limitations of the movement by the detectives make it so Mr. X almost always wins. So it kind of becomes not fun to play. The rules are they're very light, but it's just not a good game. I think I'm the only person who's ever had fun playing this game. And it requires at least 3 people. So when I was a kid, it was hard to get either both of my parents or some of my cousins or friends to play this game, especially twice, because only I had a good time playing it. I recently discovered that they reprinted the game relatively recently. So I bought a fresh new copy thinking maybe they revitalized and it's better than I remembered. And it's not. It's the same game. I made my kids play it a few times. I think we actually played it the last time we had a power outage here, which happens more often than I'd like to admit. We played Scotland Yard. And I think they humored me and said they liked it, but I don't think they did.
Wow. Yeah. So I've never played Scotland Yard. I have played my fair share of hidden movement games. Those are always hit or miss for me. I don't know. I haven't played Scotland Yard.
It's not good. It's not good, but I can't get rid of it.
No, and you shouldn't. It sparks joy, right?
Yeah. Only for me.
There's one other one I want to put on the list here. It's a late ad.
I have a copy of this in my closet.
What's that?
The game you're going to talk about.
Oh, Payday?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So before I get to the one I want to have as a late ad,
a new one. Okay.
There's surprise. I'm going to drop a surprise on here.
Ooh.
Okay. So Payday is a game released in 1975. It is an absolute trash of a board game. It's kind of like Monopoly, right? Like,
but worse.
but worse. And I don't mean it's a game that you play like Monopoly. It's very Monopoly-like, where depending on where you land and how things play out, like one player is just going to be in a more advantageous position than the rest of the players, the rest of the game. There's not a lot you can do about it. But it's one game. The reason that, regardless of how bad it is, that I will always hold on to it is that it just is a game that was in the basement at my grandparents' house that I originally played and learned how to play there, and it just has a special place in my heart. So it's more nostalgia than anything. Because again, I have always enjoyed playing board games. I didn't have a lot of people to play them with growing up. So, playing them was always kind of a joy for me. It's a little special treat for me. Yeah, it's just that's it. That's the only reason I put it on the list. It is a garbage game. I would never bust it out at a game night, but it's just something I like having in my collection.
I have the same memories of playing Payday at my grandparents' house with my cousins, because it was one of like that and Parcheesi was the games that my grandparents had.
Yep. The one other game I want to put on the list is a game called This War of Mine. It is a board game adaptation of a very dark, very, very dark computer game of the same name. The concept is that it is a cooperative game where you and the other players have to manage a group of survivors in a war zone that is based on the Chechen conflict. It doesn't specifically say Chechnya in the rules, but it is developed by people who either live through that conflict themselves or have family members that were impacted directly by it. I highly recommend that you check out the video game version, just because it is very dramatic, very well written, very dark, very sad, but a good game to play. You will engage in a lot of emotional labor to play this game, but it is a very, very good game. Now, the board game basically takes the concept of the video game and makes it a cooperative experience. As the players in the game, you don't necessarily control individual survivors. You basically take turns doing different things. For instance, if you're playing with 3 or 4 players, you will basically pass around a book each day, where each player basically takes on the role of the narrator, and the rest of the players have to decide what they want to do to basically make it through that day. And then there are certain objectives that you're trying to do. You're trying to survive. You're trying to do a bunch of different things. But the reason that it is not a very good game is it's just too damn hard. It is a very, very challenging game. I have never won it. I don't know who has won it. It is just a very, very hard game. It's got pretty quality components and really good artwork and really good story, really good theme, really good mechanics. But it's just damn near impossible to win. It's just super challenging. And I think it is a cool thought exercise to show off as a cooperative game, but it's one of those games where I'll introduce it to somebody, they'll play it once and they'll never want to play it again. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of it.
I think I played this once with you, didn't I?
I think you may have.
Yeah, it was a little rough.
It is very hard. It is a very difficult game.
Yeah.
Another late add to this, now that I'm just thinking about it, I just had one a minute. What was that one I was just remember now? It's escaping me. I thought I had another one I wanted to throw on there, but I couldn't. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm pretty happy with my collection of board games. I don't think I would necessarily get rid of any of them right now, although they're kind of creeping up there again. I might need to do another purge here soon. Yeah,
I'm getting close to... I've started, just moving them all, the ones that I don't play, into the basement and keeping my hot 40 in my closet in my office.
Yeah. No, they're all good. They're all really good. Oh, man.
Yeah, this has been the very first episode of I'm Sure They're Doing Their Best, which I guess is our title now.
That is our title now.
Yeah, I'll have to find a Twitter account that works with that and get the website up and get the podcast hosted somewhere. So, Drew, where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, shoot. You can find me on Twitter at Pittfurg, Pittfurg. Paul, where can they find you?
I'm also on the Twitters at Paul Baylor, It's Baylor is spelled Bahler. And we'll have a website up here at doingtheirbest.com shortly.
Yeah, can't wait.
Well, thanks for listening.
Yeah, take care, everybody.